Hi there, this is Erica DELSIGNORE. I'm the founder of Daily Lead Campaign, and you are watching Great Minds, Great Marketing, my interview series where we get to sit down with successful entrepreneurs and find out what they're doing in their marketing to be more successful. I'm really excited about today's guest. We have Seth Greene, and hey Seth, he is a six-time best-selling author, which is amazing. You're incredibly young, so that's amazing. And we've also got we've seen you on lots of series: NBC, ABC, CBS. All of the alphabet soup of networks are out there. You've been on, you've made the rounds, and also you've had a 2-year podcast for direct marketers, and you have an exciting announcement that I'm going to let you make because I don't know how you roped in this exciting new co-host, but we're going to find out more about it on this interview. Seth, are you ready to have a great interview today?
I am. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here talking to you and a privilege to serve your listeners and your viewers.
Oh, fantastic. So I like to start off with any interview with just finding out a little bit more about you. The first and most important question for me is, what are you doing in your personal life to have fun? Because I think as entrepreneurs, we wear so many hats that we a lot of times take that for granted. We don't get to have fun, and I know that you have a well balanced life, and you have a phenomenal family with 3 kids and younger kids too. So you've been having fun with them and working a couple of your businesses as an entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So my kids are 9, 7, and 4. Max, our son, is 9, and Ella and Lily are the girls, and they are 7 and 4. Max plays soccer, which I've coached for the last 24 seasons. Ella does Ella does theater and Girl Scouts and gymnastics, and Lily does gymnastics and preschool, and obviously they're all in school. So they keep me busy and keep me on my toes.
Oh, I'm sure they do. And didn't you just take them on a big family trip?
We did. We just went to Disney for a week last month, and we just taught that marketing and business lessons. They came to my mastermind group and taught what they learned from Disney.
Oh
And
my
my wife and
gosh.
kids gave an awesome presentation, which we will be making public on YouTube shortly, so you can check it out.
Ah, I can't wait. I
Their
love it.
presentation is in the mastermind group. My
Yep.
presentation is public, so you can go check it out.
Oh, I can't wait. I think that's wonderful that you get them involved so early, and thinking about Disney in a business way is not something that kids normally do. And I think that they're going to get much further in life now that you've shown them another way to look at it. It's not just fun, but it's also something that can be an incredible business model. So it's incredible. That's great, Seth.
Thank you. It was
You're
a
welcome.
blast.
So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got into it. Like, what did you do leading up to your current business with direct marketing and helping folks get more leads online and offline?
Sure. So I started as a retail financial advisor. I was making 300 cold calls a day, interrupting strangers, asking them for money. I think you might have hung up on me once or twice, Erica.
I did the
And,
same job.
and making cold calls was really frustrating. I had the good fortune to find Dan Kennedy and beg beg my wife for 30 days to let me borrow the money to go hire him. She finally caved on day 31. Dan took me from the 6,700th ranked advisor, as in last place at the Fortune 500 company I worked for, to the top 30 in the country nationwide for opening new accounts in less than 2 years. So that worked incredibly well and got me some media attention. And so I had all these advisors calling me saying, how do I do what you just did? And I said, Dan, what do I do? And he said, start a marketing company and do it for him. So that was marketdominationllc.com, which we started 10 years ago and started out as me and one advisor and has now grown I now have an office building full of an awesome team, and we serve business owners of all types, from the individual solo practitioner entrepreneur to Fortune 500 companies all over the planet.
Wow, that's incredible. And how long ago was that again?
I started the marketing firm 10 years ago.
Okay, so that's an incredible story. For just a decade now, you're the top in your field. That's amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's talk about some of the challenges you had getting there. And I'm sure, we all have challenges and we all have things that we can learn from. And I'd love for my listeners to be able to learn from something that may have happened to you so that doesn't have to happen to them and their life is a little less painful.
Sure. I've made a few mistakes along the way. So some of them are in my books, but some of them I will highlight that I think are most relevant for your folks today. I did not build systems to automate our service delivery soon enough. So for many years, everything we did for our clients was in my head. And
Hmm.
then when I started hiring people, some of it got into their heads. And we eventually maxed out what we could fit in our heads and how many people we could serve and keep track of in our heads.
Hmm.
So finally, we started building systems of this step needs to get done in this order by this person at this time, and then here's the next step, here's the next step, and then using software really to automate that process so that I can literally watch my team do each step at a time. They submit it for approval, we approve it, they go to the next step. So literally,
Hmm.
there's some sanity because
Right.
before that, I was managing by chaos.
Yeah, and I think we've all been there. I've certainly even for myself, I do the marketing for my clients, and it's always like the cobbler's son has no shoes. I'm doing everything for them, but I'm not doing it for myself. And so, that is actually my recent goal over the last couple of months. I've been training people and putting those processes in place, and I can tell you it does make a big difference, and
Makes a
it
huge
really
difference.
frees you up to think about your business and come up with the next big idea to implement and actually have time to implement it. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Congratulations to you on working on it. It's already made a huge difference in my sanity. And as of this week, I am getting rid of email, where I won't be checking it anymore, or addicted to it. I will be out of town. And so I am transitioning completely since I'm leaving town for a couple of days to have one of my staff members be in charge of all my email. I'm not even going to look at it anymore. She's just going to talk to me a couple times a day. I'll give her the responses and I'll just hopefully be done with email.
Wow, that's a huge step. I'm almost there myself as well. That is a huge step because it does get so chaotic, and you can actually get lost in there for
I
hours,
have
not even
every
really.
day.
Hmm. So wonderful. I expect that you're probably going to grow by 10 times just making that one change.
I certainly hope so. Another painful lesson I learned was we did, I speak a lot every month, sometimes a couple times a month. I'm speaking somewhere. And we had the founder of one of the largest personal injury law firms in in a multi-state region come. He heard me speak at one of those events. We started doing proposals, working on stuff, analyzing his business back and forth. Took about 9 months, longest selling cycle we've ever had. Fortune 500 companies decide faster. Took 9 months. We could finally get to the final proposal. He says, "Okay, you got a deal. Give me a contract. I'll get you a check." I
And
said,
that's
"Awesome."
exciting.
That's
Yep.
super. And multi six-figure contract with performance incentives to get it to seven figures. He was going to be one
Wow.
of our biggest clients. And so my wife and I were looking for a house at this time, a new house, because we had just had our third baby. We just had Lily, and we needed more space.
Right.
So I went home and told her, not why, but told her, "Hey, we just got qualified for a new mortgage amount. You can go look at a much bigger house,
Right.
up the price range." She's, of course, over the moon excited, starts looking at different neighborhoods, looking at different houses. We're going to open houses.
Sure.
Um, the next week happens. We send him the contract, no check. Called him, "Hey, did you get the contract?" We emailed the contract, "Did you get it?" We don't hear back. We mail a copy of the contract. "Hey, haven't heard from you." A couple of weeks go by. We're not getting responses to emails, to phone calls. My wife wants to start bidding, putting in offers on houses.
Mhm.
And I don't know what to tell her. I'm getting more and more frustrated. So I finally cleared my calendar, drove to his office, went to the receptionist, said, "I don't have an appointment, but I can't get a hold of this guy. I haven't heard from him in literally a month. Um, that's, not fair. I'm going to sit
Right.
here all day. I have no appointments anymore. I brought a book. I'm going to sit in your lobby all day long until I
Sure.
get like 30 seconds. And she got all flustered and upset. She goes back. She comes back 2 minutes later and said, he changed his mind. Sorry. And I was so pissed. I mean, I went in my car. I screamed. I cried. I couldn't even call my wife. I just texted her. She dropped the kids off at her parents and met me at home with a bottle of Jack Daniels. Uh,
Oh,
and then I had to tell her, listen, the reason you were shopping for that bigger house was because of this contract, and it just didn't come through. So you got to drop a couple $100,000 off your price range, which obviously did not go over too well, but she was heroically understanding.
sure.
But I mean, I learned, don't spend the money before you make it. Don't spend it in your head before you make it.
Right.
Don't spend it in any way, shape, or form, mentally, emotionally, physically, until it's actually cleared your bank account. Because credit cards don't go through, checks don't go through, people cancel, they change their mind at the last second, they sign a contract and then don't send the check.
So true.
So be
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah, no, and I've been in sales my whole life. So you think about like all those salespeople that have a funnel, and a funnel is really just a way to think about all of the deals that you have pending. And we used to put a value on all of those, and you would look at your funnel and say, oh, I should be closing $100,000
Yep.
in the next couple of months. And when it doesn't happen, your sales manager is like, well, what about this one? What about it? And it's hard because it looks like you're not doing your job. However, all of the things that you mentioned can happen, and it's an incredibly painful experience. And so, getting those yeses along the way, and making sure that you're constantly checking back and making sure there's nothing getting in the way of them signing those deals and giving you the check is just so crucial in actually closing the deals and upping your percentage and your closing ratios. So I
Absolutely.
agree with that. That's like probably the worst part of being a salesperson, I think.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Amen. So
So,
those would be my three biggest ones.
I appreciate you sharing those. It's a
Systems,
painful
don't spend the
experience.
money till you make it, and
Yep,
disconnect from email.
absolutely. All right. So talk a little bit more about the type of marketing that you do and what marketing combinations have really made you successful, because it's overwhelming for most people to look at marketing because there's tens, 20s, hundreds of things that you could possibly do. And like, where do you get started? How do you pick what to do? I mean, all of those types of things that you just pretend you're talking to an overwhelmed person that's never done any of these things before. What are the most effective, and which ones work well together?
Sure, it's a great question, but it actually depends. And we start every marketing consultation, every strategy session with the first question, which is, who's your target market? Because that
Right.
will inform which of those 100 things you should do, and then which
Mhm.
of those things you should actually start with. They can actually be sorted in order of cost and effectiveness and speed
Sure.
of implementation. So for business owner A, the ideal place might be to start on Facebook, and somebody else, the ideal place might be just to start on direct mail.
Right.
So, for example, we've got a company that sells life insurance to cancer patients. And they're crushing it on Facebook. I mean, they're getting thousands and thousands of fans at 10, 20 cents a pop. And Facebook, there's a million groups for cancer people,
Hmm.
for lack of a better term. On the other hand, I've got a client who's a local furniture store in the inner city, catering in like a 10-mile radius, and his clients aren't on Facebook. I mean, they listen to terrestrial FM radio, they listen to the local hip hop station,
Sure.
and they respond best to radio ads and direct mail. So it all depends on who your target market is.
Exactly. Okay. So, can you give us an example of something that might work best for you? I mean, you're looking for entrepreneurs that want to grow their business, and like, what size business do you typically look for, and what's been really hot?
Sure. So yes, we are looking for decision makers who own the company, who want to take their business to the next level. We're looking for people who are already successful and want to get more successful, who don't have an entire full-time marketing department, but they'd like one. but they don't have the time or expertise or want to spend the money to hire and train 20 people. And, they can get that in one transaction with us. So best places for us to reach them, we reach them by for ways we generate leads. We generate them on LinkedIn, we generate them on Facebook, we generate them on YouTube, we generate a lot with my podcast. I speak a lot. We generate them from speaking engagements and my 6 books and counting. And we do a lot of joint ventures. I write for Early to Rise, the largest business email newsletter in the country and on the planet. I write for Life Health Pro, which is the largest publisher of industry publications in financial services. So those are all great places for us to get leads from.
That's phenomenal. Great. So it sounds like you have 7 or 8 different things you're doing.
The list is a lot longer than that, but those are the 7 or 8 most effective.
Exactly. And you didn't start off with all of those all at once.
We did not. We did one at a time. We did one, got good at it, it worked for us, and then we started doing it for clients.
Exactly. That's phenomenal news. Now, one of those in particular I'd like to talk about because, as I understand it, I mean, there's actually 2 of those things. One of them, I want to know about your new book that's coming out, and then I want to know about the changes you're making in your podcast. And I've alluded to the exciting new co-host that you have coming on. So,
Yes.
tell us about those 2 things.
Awesome open loop. Okay, so the book is Market Domination for Podcasting. It hits Barnes and Noble in a couple of weeks from mid-January. Your listeners, we have a special promotion for them. If they go to marketdominationllc.com/podcast, they can get a free downloadable copy of it. Plus, they can also get access to a live training webinar with me where I will walk them through exactly the steps to build a successful podcast, turn it into a book, and use it to explode their business. So that's the book, Market Domination for Podcasting. And I'm very excited, as you have well prompted me, to announce that the new co-host, I had been hosting my show myself for the last 2 years. The new co-host will be Kevin Harrington, one of the original sharks on Shark Tank. And we will be rebranding the show. Right now it's called Direct Response Marketing. In the next week, it'll be called Sharkpreneur. And we will be interviewing, amazing entrepreneurs all over the world, sharing their stories and learning from them. And some celebrities as well, because Kevin's going to be bringing some guests on.
Oh, great. Now, tell us the story. I thought it was really interesting, the story about how you met Kevin and how you made all of this happen.
So a friend of mine, about 3 years ago, a friend of mine in a BNI chapter I used to be in, sends me a text message, hey, I know you love Shark Tank. Did you know Kevin Harrington's coming to Buffalo to speak? And I said, no. Oh, my God, when and where? And he tells me it's like the next week. I have 8 meetings that day. I move all 8 meetings, and then I buy a $300 ticket to go hear him speak. I go to the conference. I go hear him speak. And then at the end, he's, at the end of his talk, he's in the back of the room signing books, selling books, taking pictures. And I'm in line, and I'm like, I can't just go get another book. I can't just get a picture. That's everybody. I got to stand out. I got to do something different. I got to come up with something. So when it's my turn, he says, hi, nice to meet you. I say, Mr. Harrington, I'm here to take you to the airport. This is pre-Uber. And he said, and Uber's not in Buffalo anyway. And he says, oh, that's okay. I was just going to get a cab. And I said, no. They've insisted that I take you to the airport personally. Now, there was no they. I made it up. And he said, thankfully, he didn't ask. He said, okay, great. I've got a couple meetings after this. Why don't you come to the meetings with me and hang out, and then you can take me to the airport? And I said, I'd be happy to watch you work. So I went to the meetings. I'm texting my wife, oh, my God, I'm taking Kevin Harrington to the airport. She's like, in your car? Like, can't you go get something better? And I said, this is Buffalo, honey. There's no place I can go rent a Bentley by the hour. And even if I could, he's got 15 cars. It wouldn't really impress him. She's like, well, will you at least go clean your car? I said, well, I'm supposed to be sitting next to him. And she's like, pretend you have to go to the bathroom and go clean out your car. You're not allowed to drive him in your messy car. Throw everything in the trunk. So I threw everything in the trunk, drove him to the airport, drove slow to the airport, had 25 minutes on the way to the airport, pitched him, talked to him. He said, okay, send me what you got. I sent it to him. He calls me, says, my secretary just interrupted my meeting. He says, this is the coolest thing she's ever seen. I have to look at it right now. She's right. I love this. Shock and awe box. Because I told it said what it was called on it. He said, I love this. I'm getting on a plane. I'll call you when I get back. I'm interested. So that started my relationship with Kevin. We did a consultation for him and then a proposal. He had vendors for a lot of what we did, so we didn't end up working together for that. But I've been tripping on him for 3 years. We keep seeing each other at events. We keep speaking on the same stages. So at the last event we were at in Vegas, we had dinner and he's like, "Okay, let's do something together this year." I said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "What's hot? What do you got that's hot?" I told him about the podcast. He said, "Great, I want a podcast, but I don't want to do any work." I said,
There you go.
"Awesome." He said, "How do you want to work? How do you want to pull that off?" He said, "Why don't I co-host your show? We'll rebrand it around both of us, and then I'll promote it. I'll bring some celebrity guests on. I'll promote it to my list." I said, "Awesome, you're hired."
It's phenomenal.
So we're doing our first interview next week.
Can you say who it's with or no?
Sure. First interview is with Kelly O'Neill of Profitology, who is an amazing branding and direct response expert, has helped grow in some very, very large companies, written books, spoken everywhere, thought leader in the space, and we're excited to learn about what she's doing that's new.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear it too. I have you on my podcast, so it's an incredible podcast, and I would suggest that everybody tune in. Can you tell us how to get to that podcast one time?
Sure. Right now, if you search iTunes for direct response marketing, you'll find me. I own 80% of the real estate. And in a week or so, you'll look for Sharkpreneur. If you don't subscribe now, and you'll stay subscribed when it changes. But if you don't subscribe and it's free in the next week, then you'll look for Sharkpreneur or look for me, look for Seth Greene, and you'll find it.
Okay, we're going to look for you, and we're definitely going to tune in. Let me ask you, what is the next biggest thing coming up in your industry of direct marketing?
I think it's what we're doing now. I think taking a podcast like this one, which is a done for you service we provide, turning it into a book, using the book to become the authority, the credible authority in your space, and using that to generate business and referrals. I think that is what's next, even though we're already doing it. And then I think the second thing is he who has the most pixels wins. So whoever's got the biggest pixeled audience on their website, whether that's push notifications or Facebook or Google pixels for retargeting, I think that will become what having a large email list was years and years ago.
I see. So the pixels are to follow people around once they come to your website or look at whatever marketing that you have. These are little pixels, are a bit of code that you can add to your marketing so that people can constantly see you and not even realize, like, oh, wow, here's Seth again talking about his newest podcast.
We are the nicest cyber stalkers you'll ever want to meet.
I think that's wonderful. I can't wait to hear more about that. Let's see here. So you were talking about offering your new book. I would love to have you just give us um, that site again before we go, and that way we can drive some traffic your way, and then you can cyber stalk us.
Absolutely, I would love to. I appreciate that. And yeah, before we wrap up, it's marketdominationllc.com/podcast.
That's fantastic. And so we'll have that up on the video in our editing process. And what I would like to tell listeners about what's up and coming with Daily Lead Campaign is to please check out dailyleadcampaign.com. We are going to have 2 new sections. One page is going to be for these Great Minds, Great Marketing interviews. So if you didn't catch this, or if you really love this interview, you want to see the rest of the interviews, it'll be easy for you to go there. And there's going to be a new page as well for TV appearances for me. I've got 2 coming up in the next 2 Fridays, and I had one a few months ago. So I think those are rolling in, and we'll be talking about some really interesting topics having to do with video marketing and social media marketing and how to use those to help drive leads for your business. So I can't wait to have those pages rolled out. Those will be up in post editing as well for those people that are on the webinar right now. Okay, so Seth, thank you so much for joining us today. You are by far one of my favorite people to see at the GKIC conferences. You've always got the best and most cutting edge marketing ideas, and it's so incredible that you chose to share a lot of those with my audience. And I wish you the best with your Sharkpreneur podcast. I will be listening.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.